Okay, so it's a beautiful day. What can we do with an old piece of denim? Let's go find out. Okay, so what am I doing? Well, I have a tuna can, punched a hole in the top, and you see that white smoke coming out of the middle of the top of that can? I put little pieces of denim cut up into patches in there, and there's not enough oxygen for it to burn, but it can get really good and charred. And when that white smoke stops coming out of the top at all, then it'll be done. So why char cloth? This is char cloth, and I've made it before, and it's very, very fragile charred denim or other kinds of cloth. And when I put that next to a piece of flint, and I strike the flint and get a little tiny spark, and it can be so tiny, but as soon as that spark touches that char cloth, it'll light. And it won't burn, it'll just be an ember. And you put that ember, that little sparked place on the char cloth, put it inside of this, well, this ground up, what is it called? What is this? This is just bark that I found in the woods. Kind of ground it up with my hand. Stick it in this and blow on it. And that's how I started this fire. And so I'm just gonna make some more char cloth today. It's just a fun thing to do. Nice, fun hobby. This is a piece of flint that I got from knapping flint, making arrowheads. And I just took this and I put the little piece of char cloth on it, and I struck it. And I struck it with this steel. And all this is a file, an old file. And when you strike the flint, the spark comes not from the flint, but the spark comes from the steel, a little tiny, tiny shaving of steel that sparks off. And that's what ignites the char cloth that I have here. Interesting stuff, huh? And I have a lot of this flint, little tiny pieces, all you need. Just a sharp edge of flint. And that'll get you that spark off of your steel. So much fun. Okay, so it still have some fumes coming out. The smoke stopped, but there's a flame coming out of the top of the tuna can, which means, of course, that it's not done charring. And when that stops, then I can take it off the fire. Okay, it looks like it's done. There's no more smoke or fire or anything else coming out of the can. So I'm just gonna set it over here and let it cool off. It takes about 5 minutes to cool off. Okay, so here's my piece of flint. Here's a piece of char cloth. I put it right along the edge, the sharp edge of that flint, and I'll strike it with my steel and try to get a spark to land on the char cloth just to start it. Now, it often takes multiple strikes to get it, sometimes 1 or 2 and sometimes 5 or 10. So let's just see what happens here. I don't know if you saw the sparks. It has to land just right. There we go. There we go. Okay, so I put it in my bundle. This is actually cedar. And I blow on it. There we go. And there's my bundle. Okay, and then I put that into my stove that's already prepared, that has wood waiting for it, and that's how we can do it. But it's so much fun to take flint and a steel striker and char cloth and get that little bitty spark on there to start up your tinder bundle. Put it in your prepared wood that's laid out, and do a fire. It's just so much fun. And so it's just a nice fun hobby to have. And y'all ought to come on over and let me show you how to do that. And we can practice together. And I have all the materials. It's fun. I thought I'd show you the can. Had it in the grass for about 5 minutes. It's all cooled off. I open it up, and that's the cloth that's charred. And I'll just take these very fragile pieces of char cloth out. Sometimes put it in a little jar or some other kind of container or another metal container, and then that's how I store it. And this char cloth here is, I don't know, a year or two old, but it still works really, really well. And so now you get the gist of the idea. And by the way, it's very, very sooty. Okay. And so we see the new char cloth is working just fine. So I had a bunch of flint pieces like this from flint knapping, making arrowheads, and just a whole big bucket, and I was going to throw it away. I decided yesterday to go through it, and I took all these little shards of flint out thinking, well, what can you do with these little bitty things? And yet, they are great for getting sparks for your char cloth. They're also good for arrowheads, for bird points. As small as it is, these make great bird points, arrowheads. And they're very sharp, and flint is a very hard rock. And although it looks very, very slender, thin, like it'd break real easy, it's hard to break this stuff. Okay, I bet that's more than you wanted to know. So much for that. Now, wasn't that fun?